And welcome to SFL This Week with Mike St. Green. I'm Cameron Irvine. The countdown clock has started to the kickoff of tonight's big game between Bossier City and Pittsburgh. But me and Mike are here to break down week 2 in the SFL. How you doing, Mike?
Good, Cam. A little cold down here, but it's going to get colder next week from what I hear. But we're dealing with it, and hey, it was a great weekend, great football weekend in the SFL, and can't wait to see these highlights and cover these games that we are going to get into here in a couple of minutes.
Coldest January on record in quite some time down here in the South where we're from. And it was a little bit colder for the South Division this week as well. Not all 5 teams won, and Bossier City will try to keep up with Albuquerque atop the division tonight.
Yeah, well, one team that definitely won in the South, and I wasn't too happy about that. But Bossier City, they are the one another team that could probably try to carry the flag for the South. We don't want them to get too far ahead of us, though, Cam. So we'll wait and see what the predictions are going to be later on in the show.
Mexico City was ice cold this week. They were on a bye and didn't play, so the defending champs still sit at 1-0 in the South. Another team that's ice cold, who we start with today, is the Sin City Samurai, who were looking to avoid an 0-2 start for the first time since their first season as a franchise. And in Florida, that would be a tough task. Let's take a look at the highlights. This is where we start. It started with an Evan Lacey interception off the deflection, a beautiful tip. At this point, Sin City led Florida 3-0 at the end of the first half, but Art Vandelay to start the second half, Mike, he just shows up in the biggest moments, doesn't he?
Yeah, one, it was great to see Evan Lacey. He was back in the league after one season hiatus, getting an interception. But then Art Vandelay here, this basically turned the game on his ear. Florida had been struggling for offense all game, and Art Vandelay pulls them out of the fire, so to speak.
7-3 Florida, but Robert Johnson fights back 10-7. Samurai back in front. Then Scar Patterson, he took a beating on this day, up 13-7. Tomaello with the sack, and they'd have to punt it away. Bullet Beletsky really got things going on this drive. A draw play for the touchdown from the 10-yard line. Creative play calling there from the Storm. They take a 1-point lead. 4th down and short. Logan Lee with the carry, and he's stuffed. What is going on with Logan Lee to start the season? 14-13. The Florida Storm up, and Chris Komisak seals the deal for Florida. So Florida's run game sealing the deal for the Storm. Sin City's not, and the Storm win 14-13. A surprising result, as Sin City was controlling that one for most of the game. But man, Logan Lee, back-to-back weeks, sub-50-yard performances, or 100-yard performances, I should say, Mike. That's very unexpected out of Sin City's backfield.
Yeah, no doubt, Cameron. That's not what we've become accustomed to seeing from Logan Lee or this Sin City / Canton franchise run game for what we've seen over the past couple of seasons, and they struggled, and they're going to probably kick themselves for losing this game because they were in total control of this game. They did everything except put the points up on the board to secure a victory. And when you come away with 3, a lot of times you get bitten by that. But let's not take anything away from this Florida defense. They had a great game plan defensively to shut down this Sin City offensive attack. 5 sacks, an interception from Ryan Davidson, and the biggest stat of all was 17 tackles for loss, and that was an incredible performance by the Florida Storm defense.
Now, Florida looks good. They're 2-0, but kind of like last season, they're kind of slogging through the early part of the season. They beat Atlanta 20-17. They beat Sin City 14-13, so nothing explosive out of Florida, and last season it wasn't enough ultimately to get back to the title. What have you seen out of the Storm, and how are you feeling about their 2-0 start? Still 2 wins against playoff teams from last year.
You know, any team will take the W's, Cam, but it's about how you win. I guess, a fundamental way that you win, I guess, is more important than, the style points, I guess, so to speak. But sooner or later, as we saw last season, you're going to have some offense, production to come through with a big victory somewhere down the line in a big game, playoffs, when you really need it. And that Florida offense and the excitement, I think we, like to see from certain teams. We haven't seen it. Art Vanderlei was kind of held in check. We really hadn't seen much from Bullet Beletsky as far as explosiveness in the past couple of seasons. Sooner or later, that's going to have to take effect for this team if they're going to expect to compete for a championship, I think.
Yeah, the elements are there, and early on in the season, wins are wins, and that's just it's just one step closer to making another deep playoff run for the Florida Storm. Sin City, first 2 games on the road, they still have not played a home game. Have you seen what their home stadium is looking like, Mike? It's looking pretty impressive.
I've seen some previews of it, and I really like their I can't give them a who wore it best because I hadn't won yet, Cam. But they're really looking good for what I've been seeing from the little previews that we have seen. They're looking pretty sharp.
So that'll be good to see SFL football back in Vegas. Well, SFL football was back in Washington this week, Olympia, Washington to be exact. That's where Friday night kicked off, where the Washington Trident played their home opener against the Arizona Scorpions. And this was a big game, a lot of former Scorpions playing, but it was Terrell Cooper who stole the show early in this game for the Washington Trident in their home opener. He was explosive, dynamic all night long. 3rd and goal. Same old Trident, same old Scorpions. This run is smashed down by Sean Moore. Incentive cha-ching, forces a field goal, 3-0 Washington. Arizona now inside the 10. Bismarck right with the stiff arm. This game was won inside the 10-yard line all night long. 7-3 here just before the half. And Ashley Jackson is picked off at the 3-yard line. So Washington keeps points off the board for Arizona. Later in the 3rd quarter, Tommy Utah fires an Xavier Rue III, who's been having a lot of words with a lot of SFL brethren across the league. He was getting burned by Cooper, but he won the battle that time. This time on 3rd and goal for Washington, instead of running it, they flip it out to Christopher Dean, and they tie the game at 10. Late in the 3rd quarter, 5 seconds to go. Ashley Jackson's pass is picked off by Albert Begin. Just too many mistakes for Arizona.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Cam. And the ugly turnover bug kind of hit bit Ashley Jackson in this game. She had kind of gotten away from that on a regular basis, but Washington did a great job of confusing her on the defensive side of the ball.
Final minute again inside the 10. Look, it's Albert Begin again with the interception. So Christopher Dean got the touchdown on 3rd and goal. Albert Begin with back-to-back picks down the stretch of this one, 2 of 4. Ashley Jackson turnovers, and Washington gets the win 17-10 over Arizona. The Trident improved to 1-0 as it was both teams' first games of the season. Washington coming out in the former Motor City V8s, trying to prove that it really is a new era and not just a new coat of paint.
Yeah, it really seems like a new era over there, Cam, and one person I think that has really turned the page and helped them turn the page and make it a new era is Tommy Utah. It just feels like they finally have a grip on that quarterback position that they seem to always struggle with from way back in the St. Louis days. I don't remember them having a really established quarterback really since Johnny Pickler, and he was only there one season, and they had struggled with that historically. Hopefully they can keep Tommy Utah in the fold and continue to build on what they did this past weekend.
Albert Begin, Nathaniel Diggs, former teammates of Ashley Jackson, were 3 of the 4 interceptions that she threw. And you could definitely tell in this game that Arizona's maybe red zone efficiency was just a little bit off. As they try to figure out their weapons. DJ Moses was really quiet. They weren't able to get their ground game going. It was week 1 for both teams, so it's hard to get too much out of this game, but not where Arizona wanted to start.
Yeah, and no doubt about it, Cameron. But one thing we know Eddie Gage is going to go back to the drawing board, figure out what he did wrong in this game, and try to make some adjustments and definitely get that running game going. And that will help Ashley more or less in the passing game to where they won't have to depend on her arm as much.
Of course, Ashley Jackson was all over this matchup, and she returns with PGI post-game interviews with the former Arizona linebacker and now Washington co-owner Nathaniel Diggs, and she also stopped by with Arizona co-owner and head coach Eddie Gage. PGI returns. Ashley, take it away.
Welcome back to PGI where I am joined with a great friend of mine, Mr. Nathaniel Diggs, owner of the Washington, well, co-owner of the Washington Trident, who just was victorious over his old team. Why you gotta do us like that? The Arizona Scorpions. How you doing, man?
Good, good. Glad to be on.
I'm glad to have you on. And as much as that loss, it hurts anytime you lose. Week one is a toss up, it always is. But you're my buddy. You've been with us in Arizona for a long time. You're our GM and everything. And to see you get the victory, being the owner of a brand new team, I'm proud of you overall. Even though it was on us, and even though y'all got 3 interceptions, you know, you having one of them. Don't add. Let me add something. Anyway, but for real, congratulations. I know it's stepping into ownership can be a very scary ordeal because you don't know what to expect. And
hmm
winning your first game to start things off has to feel good. So tell me, how do you feel right now?
I feel pumped. I'm still excited about it. I mean, to go against uh, a formidable team like Arizona, it's a big game. It's a hard first game. I mean, y'all been to the championship 2 times, making the playoffs last season. It's a big team to go against in your debut game, especially at home, and to come out with the victory was really sweet. So I'm extremely pumped. It was a hard fought game, but I'm glad we came out with the W.
Yeah. So what do you think was some key factors that actually put you guys over the top?
Key factors. Kind of gotta go back to the beginning with a great off season. Um, Getting the free agents that we got and the returnees
Yeah.
from Motor City. You know, Tina and Albert again, and DeSantis was big, and then getting Maxwell Quimby in the draft. That was a big move. Uh, and then if you're talking pregame was you know Drew and Begin and Thump really running these sims and putting us in a position to get the victory this week, and hopefully that continues rolling forward. They put a lot of time and effort into it, and as far as on the field, that offensive line holding strong and being able to get Utah to make the time to be able to make the connections with Cooper was amazing. Um, 170 yards in a game, that's crazy. But as well as the defense kept pressure on you. We didn't get the sacks, but we was able to get the pressure on there, and the secondary being able to step up with the 4 interceptions. I want to say congrats to Dean on getting us our first touchdown and first receiving touchdown, as well as Cross on getting that field goal, first points of the franchise.
Yeah. Gotta feel good. Gotta feel good. And you made history just by doing that. So congratulations. And yeah, you did get the win. Uh you did try to sack. You did try to sack me a couple
Yeah,
times. I
you
think
shook
two
it
of y'all
off.
came. Oh boy. Nah, I already knew. But
That'll be a
you
next time.
oh yeah. And I guarantee you, we can trade. I'll let you get a sack if you let us get the win. All right.
Hey, you let me get an interception, so I gotta
Yeah,
go
go
somewhere.
stop asking for stuff. But Diggy, it's good seeing you again. I'm glad
It's good
that
seeing you.
things are, starting to. You're off to a really good start, with the Trident, and I wish you guys the best of luck. All jokes aside, I do care about you, and I'm glad to see you thriving, man. So good
Well,
luck.
thank you so much, and good luck on the rest of your season as well.
Appreciate it, man. Back to you. All right, welcome back to PGI, and I am joined with my fellow owner, Coach Eddie Gage, over from the Arizona Scorpions, coming off a tough loss to the Washington Tridents, one of the newer teams of the SFL. Um, how you doing, Coach? I mean, I already know the answer, but just for the people in the back, how you feel?
I'm good. I mean, you hate to lose anytime.
Yeah,
Week one is always a crapshoot, but in the moment, you're pissed off. You got all these emotions going through you, but once the emotions settle, you realize it's just one of 12 and it's a lot of season left. So you just roll with the punches and keep it moving.
Indeed. But what do you think went wrong out there? I mean, for a minute it looked like it was going to be you know, well, it was a good game either way, but it just
Mhm.
seems like at a certain point they pulled away. So what do you think went kind of wrong out there?
Turnovers. We gave up a number of chunk plays defensively, but the defense always found a way to hold and forced me to punt. And we can get off the field, but anytime you lose a turnover battle 4-1, it's going to be a tough hill to climb. And despite that -3 margin of error with the turnovers, we still were right there with a chance to tie the game and force overtime. So it is what it is. It's got to pick up the pieces, learn from the experience, and move on to week 3.
Indeed. Indeed. So in the off season, or like leading up to, of course, week 1 or their first game, a couple of our members of our team were very vocal about how things are going to be playing out. So how does that
Yeah.
affect you as a coach? Are you sitting back there like, yeah, man, they're representing, or are you like, hey, man, you want to wait till the game is actually played first before you say something? Like.
It's funny because, as in the middle of last season, I made a mental note for myself that I was going to allow the team to, talk more trash and be more creative with social media and stuff like that. And it just so happens, we signed those 2 characters, which is crazy because Buchanan has been silent for like several seasons. He hasn't really spoke like this in a long time, since his Chicago days. So I was kind of surprised to see that. I was more concerned about him progressing than that. And it just came out of left field. So it surprised me too. Xavier, he's really not, that much of a trash talker really in comparison to Buchanan. He just tends to pick off of Buchanan's energy, so to speak. But what he does isn't really bad at all to me. I've seen too much worse, when I play, so I don't know. It's really not a big deal. Honestly, other than Buchanan calling Fox out his name, which he eventually apologized for, and Fox accepted his apology, what he says isn't bad. I think the problem where he runs into with some of his other contemporaries, his constituents or peers amongst the league, is, he doesn't know how to let it go. He'll come in at 9 a.m. talking trash, and you log off and come back in at 4, and he's still going at it. And it's like, bro, you made your point, man. Let's move on to the next one. But he doesn't know how to let up. And I have to remind myself he's a kid. He came into this league when he was in grade school. And I think he's like in college right now. I don't know what year he's in, but he's still relatively young. So I just have to keep that in mind. And we've talked with him since then. Everett sat down and talked to him, but we'll get it together. I mean, I'm thankful to have Everett, who's his real life friend, in the locker room to kind of sit him down from time to time when we need to.
Definitely. Last question to you. Nathaniel Diggs, aka Diggy, and a few of our other former Scorpions are now a part of the Washington Tridents.
Yeah.
How excited for you even though it was against us.
Mm-hmm.
How excited for you for their first win, especially knowing what they've been through?
Well, I know Diggs wanted a shot at ownership for the past few seasons now. He's got his opportunity. I'm really happy for him because I know it's something he wanted. He's learned a lot since he's been here. Him having Yayo in his corner this past season, sitting down with him was a big help for him and his growth and his maturation. Learned about the SFL and what it takes to be a GM helped him, I believe, secure that spot and being an owner and getting in. The rest of those guys, I once Albert got the DC gig, it was probably a given that his wife, of course, is going to leave with him. And then he got some real life friends, I think, who either live with him or live close by. So I should have done my due diligence and expected them to move, and we could have, better prepared for it, even though they said they were returning. But, it is what it is. They found a new home. I'm happy for them. And we're going to just keep moving forward. But congratulations to Diggs once again, getting your first win as a franchise under a new regiment, so to speak. So congratulations, bro, and good luck the rest of the season.
Indeed. Well, week 3 is coming up, so got to focus. We're back to 0-0. But I'm sure we'll get it together, Coach. I appreciate all you do.
Failure's not an option around here. You know that.
Indeed. I appreciate all you do and looking forward to seeing what we come up with next week.
For sure.
All right. Back to you in the booth.
Richardson will have to throw. He's going to scramble still, trying to buy time. Throws it deep, and it's intercepted. Picked off mid-air, going the other way by Nate Hall. Let's see what they do here first goal. Pressure coming, stands in, delivers a strike to Jacob. And the throw on third down. The pass intercepted and going the other way. And Wyatt, he's going to take it down to the 2-yard line. He almost had hit 6. Comes up just short, but Monty Wyatt making his presence known again. That's exactly what LA needs right here. First play. Split back, Richardson to throw to the end zone, and it is a touchdown. He finds his fullback. Love it. Falcons to stay in the same formation. Richardson to the end zone, and touchdown. Guess who, Chad? Telling his defense that this is it. You cannot let them get the first down. Richardson to throw, Chris Lee out in the wide open flats along the sideline. Snap to hold the kick. It is no good. Wide left coming up. Big play here. Defense closing in, but finding a wide open receiver was Michael Brown, and he finds Joe Beasley. Man, we are setting up for an exciting final 2 minutes in this game. Queen City on the move. Look at this breaking free here. Charlie Baker. 3rd and inches. Single back formation, very interesting play call here. And pushing to the end zone, it is Charlie Baker for the touchdown and the go-ahead lead for Queens.
Sure.
Oh,
But,
man. Yes, when muted the whole highlight reel. Should we do it
Well,
again?
Let's do it again, Cam. Why
Let's
not?
do it
I mean,
again. Yeah,
first of all,
who cares?
They just missed some of your best work.
That they did miss some of my best work. Sully Richardson starting this game. Wow, plenty of mistakes for Los Angeles, killing him. Nate Hall with the return, and I think Coach Gage threw a vase at his wall because it's looking a little scraped up back there on that post-game interview. James Matthew Jr. with the first score of this game, 7-0 Queen City. Then Michael Brown throws an interception to Monty Wyatt. Finally got L.A. going in this one. Down just 7-0 early in the second quarter. Wyatt showing off to the home fans who are happy about that turnaround for their team. Richardson first and goal with the 2. Will drop back to pass the ball and find Dan Curtis for the touchdown. Tie game at 7 for Los Angeles. Late in the first half, Sully Richardson fires to Chris Lee, 14-7. Would you believe it? That would be the only, or the last points, rather, that Los Angeles scored in this one. Look at this. Sully Richardson to Chris Lee. They are in field goal range with 6 minutes to go, up 4, but John Smith cranks this field goal to the left and missed it. Now Queen City takes over. 3rd down and 9. Down 4. Michael Brown to Joe Beasley. Needed 9. Got about 29 on that run, and Queen City's now in business. This next handoff to Charlie Baker, who gets him a first down. That backfield getting crowded, Mike.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Cam. It's getting a little crowded back there with the signing announced today of G.P. Wells. That's going to be joining the Queen City Corsairs for week 3. It's going to be interesting to see how they implement him into this offense.
And a third down and short. Charlie Baker punches it in, 17-14, and the Queen City Corsairs are 2-0 for the first time since season 17. Los Angeles falls to 0-2 at home. And we start with Queen City, Mike, and look, we're right back where we were. But we start with Queen City tonight, getting to 2-0. I think most people thought that they would beat Oklahoma City, given where Oklahoma City is as a franchise. But I think most people probably thought, well, LA's going to bounce back after a tough game against Fort Worth, and Queen City will probably fall back down to earth, but that's not what the fourth quarter told.
Yeah, and LA pretty much let them hang around in this game. And as we saw that missed field goal late in the fourth quarter, that really was a crucial play and time in this game where if you get that field goal, the least that you can come away with is a possible tie and send an overtime situation. But Morgan Brown came through with a couple of huge plays in this game, a fumble recovery and interception late to really seal this game. And Queen City, they kind of passed the litmus test a little bit. Yeah, a slight step up in competition with playing LA, but going on the road to win a big game like that for this franchise and go 2-0 for the first time in a long time is huge for them.
All those rookies stepped up big, and the resurgence of Joe Beasley. Like, the season 24 is full of new names that they just look like better players. They look like they're in a better system. They look like they're in a better place in their career. It's been really exciting, Mike, to see some of these guys shine. And Joe Beasley, for the second straight week, just crushed it for Queen City.
Yeah, and one thing I kind of thought about over the weekend, Cam, as you mentioned, we're seeing a lot of new players, make big plays week in and week out. Joe Beasley comes through with a big game, continuing drive late in that ball game to help them score that game winner. But I also just had a thought about new franchise in Washington, a new regime over there. Sin City for the new regime there, but Queen City, a total new regime. Just new coaches, new GMs, new minds coming into this league, and maybe putting a fresh new process into how to win games and how to strategize and put their teams in positions to win. And I think that's a little bit what we're seeing right now in season 25. Season 24. I'm sorry. I'm ahead of myself. I'm thinking convention already.
New playbook rules as well that I'm sure are impacting things around the league. Week 1, it was about 50-50, right? Half the teams used new playbook rules, half the teams won those games. So, nothing too crazy, but like you said, Mike, it's we're seeing different ways to get victories. We're seeing different players step up and play good football. And, we're not necessarily seeing the same household names at the top of the ticket either, up at the top of the standing. So big win for Queen City there in Los Angeles. And for the Lycans, Mike, it's got to be frustrating for them because once again, they're starting slow, and the last couple seasons they've finished hot. They're the last team you want to play, but these slow starts they're killing this team.
Frustrating for them. It's frustrating for me, Cam. You don't know how much emotionally I'm invested in the Los Angeles Lycans getting off to a great start, and they never do it. And it blows my mind every season. As you mentioned, they finish the seasons great, but by the time they get things going, it's too late. Playoffs are pretty much out of the picture. And I don't know what it's going to take for this team to, get off to better starts. I don't know if it's a scouting thing. I don't know what it is. But, sooner or later, these guys are going to have to get off the schneid and get things rolling early in the season. Obviously, it's not too late yet. But coming out of an 0-2 hole is pretty difficult in this league.
Well, if you were Vancouver, you were saying, slow start, fast start? How about no start? We haven't played a game yet, and there were many teams across the league that had already played two, but by the time we got to Sunday night and Vancouver got to hit the field, so you knew the Vancouver Legion were eager to get out there. They were on the road to take on the Charleston Predators, and they got off to a little bit of a slow start. Opening minute of the game, Christian Brown gets absolutely nailed. Charleston recovers and then goes on a run here. Xavier Solomon from Iman Kopech to start the second quarter on a first down and goal. And then Charleston would cap off the drive with a second and goal at the 2. Pay attention to this play, right? Brad Taylor-Wright takes the toss out to the left on a goal-to-go situation. Keep that in mind. Iman Kopech in the second half, boy, he got terrorized. Gerald Giudice with one of his 2 sacks there. Charleston's down 9-7 now in the second half, and that pass is intercepted, thrown right to Emmanuel Blackman. You know, Charleston, like Los Angeles, scored all their points in the first half, got shut out at home for the second consecutive team to do that. 16-7, Vancouver ends up beating Charleston. Minnesota hosted Atlanta, and it was all Minnesota legend early, 10-0 for Minnesota. And Mike, Atlanta is still struggling on these third and short situations. They cannot pick up first downs.
Yeah, their running game is really struggling. We haven't seen a lot out of BDG Hollywood yet early in this season, and in those drive killers, where you can't move the ball, keep moving the sticks, that's really killing this Atlanta team.
Well, Atlanta didn't have any touchdowns until 4 minutes to go in the game when Ryan Roosevelt recovers an onside kick. Atlanta goes right down the field, scores on a beautiful pass from Bryant Dynasty to Boo Chisholm, made it 20-13. Atlanta's only down 7, so they have an opportunity here to get another onside kick and win the game, but Quag Mam shuts the door. Atlanta has scored no offensive touchdowns in the first 3 quarters in each of their first 2 games, and it's once again too little too late for Atlanta as they fall to Minnesota 20-13. But let's go back to Vancouver for a sec. A lot of defense in that game. The Legion take care of business 16-7. If you couple Charleston's week 1 performance, which was 28-12, Charleston's offense off to a bit of a bumpy start. Now 0-2 are the Predators, and that East Division is not looking as good as they did last season either. More surprised by Charleston starting 0-2 or what Vancouver showed us in their first game this season?
Man, that's a tough one. That's a little bit of both, but I'm not going to say I'm surprised by Vancouver's win and their start. As we talked about the youngsters and young players and kind of unfamiliar players that we've seen so far in the highlights to start the season. But Vancouver, their opening game, we saw a lot of old names, as you mentioned, Emmanuel Blackman and Gerald Giudice. And then late in that game, we saw Sudu Nakai really come through with a couple of huge runs, and we saw that touchdown late. So it's really not a surprise to see them where they are, because that's a veteran team that came through with a big-time veteran win, even though they didn't play extremely well in this game. And one thing that Charleston is finding out, Iman Kopech, he's been in this league a couple of seasons, but his first year taking the reins full-time, and he struggled a little bit, so maybe they're going to have some growing pains with him. We'll see if they can bounce back in week 3.
I think for Charleston, it's about that run defense. I mean, Vancouver ran on them pretty good. Indy really did in week 1. And it's kind of a similar situation in Nashville, which we're going to get to here in a minute, where their run defense is really hurting them and not being able to get teams off the field. But Charleston goes to 0-2. Vancouver, we don't know a whole lot about them just yet, but they are 1-0 and one of the undefeated teams out there in the West. And now that I think about it, I'm getting used to these new divisions. Sin City, L.A., Vancouver. Who else is out there in the West? Who am I missing? How is that even possible? Denver. Yeah, out west. Yeah, Denver's 2-0. So yeah, Denver and Vancouver top of the in Arizona, top of the billing there in the.
Well, it's easy to forget Arizona.
Ooh, That's not what I was saying. That's what Mike St. Green was saying. Don't put that on me, Eddie. That is some bad juju right there. Let's get to some blowouts this week, and some surprising blowouts at that. How about Denver, Lexington, D.C., each improving to 2-0 on the road? Denver did it, convincingly against shoot, boy, I'm having a really tough show tonight. Denver gets the win. Lexington shuts out Oklahoma City. D.C. Convincingly beats Indianapolis. Let's jump back to Denver. Let's start with D.C. for a minute here, Mike, because that game was 21-21, and then very similarly against Pittsburgh, the Dragons kind of took over in the second half.
Yeah, it kind of looked like this was going to be a touchdown for touchdown game, shootout at the end, but DC, they really came on strong late in this game. Shabazz Energy was very efficient on offense, 12 out of 14 for 169 yards, and then it was very good to see the sheriff Kevin Say come through with a big game for him, 16 for 112 and a touchdown. And if they can get that kind of production, and let's not forget about Lauren Percoco, she had another solid game as she typically does. This DC team, they're rolling right now, Cam, and they've always been like this kind of tough, efficient team that's not going to beat themselves too much. Look out once they get this offense rolling.
8 teams played on Sunday. None of them scored over 30. DC's scored over 30 in both of their first 2 games. So the Dragons offense with more weapons, including Connor Weston, certainly looks like they are back. Okay, back to Denver. They played Chicago late Friday night. No wonder I couldn't remember it. It was 3 days ago. The Night Wings get to 2-0, and the game was pretty forgettable too, because Chicago is in a world they just cannot figure out what's going on. They can't get their run game going. Even with the return of Ballou Scott, it's not working. But Dwayne Salmons and Bailey O'Shaughnessy is working. They were a dynamic duo in this game, and we really saw almost kind of like what we were hoping to see in Louisiana all those years. We saw it play out in Denver with those pair in this victory.
Yeah, Denver, they really just, as you mentioned, they kind of just fundamentally just took care of Chicago. I don't know what's going on in Chicago right now. They haven't scored an offensive touchdown all season long in 2 games. Type attack is struggling. The offense, the running game is not clicking. I'm not sure what's going on there, but let's keep the shine on Denver. As you mentioned, O'Shaughnessy and Salmons, Salmons really had a big game. Bailey O'Shaughnessy, he was solid, and Denver, as a lot of people predicted, they're looking good to start the season.
Just to sort of compare and contrast, DC's scored 75 points this season, and Chicago has scored 9, and they played in the same amount of games. I mean, that is a wide disparity between one of the best offenses and one of the worst over the first couple of weeks. Speaking of low-scoring teams, Oklahoma City was shut out after putting up 31 on Queen City, who only scored or gave up 14 to Los Angeles. So a lot of weirdness with that. Oklahoma City's offense kind of duds out in their home opener, and Lexington gets the shutout win. I think the big difference with Lexington, Mike, is if they were 1-1 right now with that loss to Baltimore, we'd be saying same old Lexington. But because they beat Baltimore, now they're 2-0, and now we look at them as, a potentially dominating team, giving up only about 20 points over the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch this team the remainder of the season. I'm not sure what their schedule looks like in the next upcoming weeks, but it's going to be interesting to see if they can, finally turn the corner and start winning some games that maybe that we're not expecting them to win, and not dropping a game to a team that we're not, expecting them to pretty much run over. But they handled their business nicely against Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City, that roster is, really lacking, so it doesn't surprise anyone to see Lexington do what they did. But as you mentioned, this is a game that typically in the past that some type of way that Lexington franchise will figure out a way to lose, but they did a nice job of just taking care of business and putting Oklahoma City away.
2 teams that bounce back from week 1 losses. Baltimore takes care of Fort Worth pretty easily. Carolina dispatched Nashville pretty easily, as that game kind of got away from Nashville. I mean, they were right in that thing until they weren't, and Carolina stepped on their throats. both teams kind of looked like they used to look, right? Baltimore a little bit less Johnny Kim, a little bit more T-Roy Gaines, and then Carolina a little bit less running on third down and a little bit more trying to get Marcus Dunhill, completions down the field. And Chris Curtis was a big part of that win with a couple of scores. But both those teams looking more like themselves in week 2.
Yeah, and with Carolina also, we can't forget about the run game. I think getting Riley Quintero, going a little bit, 96 yards on the ground for him really helped, Marcus Dunhill get a little comfortable in the pocket and was able to make plays downfield. I don't think he was sacked at all in this game with no interceptions. So that was huge for Carolina to get off the schneid and get the first victory of the season.
All right, last highlight of the night. That was Friday night in Albuquerque. Houston and Albuquerque. This one was a fun one. 2nd down and goal. And just like last week, Houston starts the scoring with a DR Sim touchdown in the red zone. 7-0 Headhunters. But special teams killing Houston all night long. It started with Kyle Finnemore's kick return here.
Yeah, Cam, these plays are devastating to any team, especially when you're on the road and establish yourself with a lead. Kyle Finnemore comes through big for his team with a huge kick return to get Albuquerque back even in this game.
7-7, then second quarter, 14-10 Albuquerque. Mike St. Green, what happened
We can
here
skip
from
this
the
one.
45?
We can skip this. I have no idea what happened on this play. We can skip
you
this
black
one.
out?
Yeah.
And then the punter recovers it. Buzz Killington, man. Keenan Samuels, one-handed interception. At this point, Albuquerque was just feeling it. 24-10, they get a field goal out of it. 27-10, John Lakeman finds Josh Slapp in the end zone. So Houston hanging around 27-17, but Kyle Finnemore, the touchdown vulture on Jason Williams. Williams still got 2 of them, but too much Albuquerque. They would end up winning 37-31. Houston kept it interesting down the stretch of the game, but Albuquerque had pulled away because those 2 big special teams plays really killed a lot of momentum for Houston, who now falls to 1-1 in the South. Albuquerque at the top, 2-0.
Yeah, the special teams plays were huge. The fumble by myself, MSG, and the kick return by Finnemore, that really, set the tone and turned the game on its ear. And then Keenan Samuels with that huge interception that really made us play, from behind the rest of the second half. It was and really kind of statistically made it a anomaly kind of game for me. When you look at the final stats, I think Albuquerque only had about 12 first downs. Houston had 24. But third down, I can't remember what the third down efficiency was, but Albuquerque did a great job of keeping the chains moving on third down, which pretty much led to points. And playing from behind, played well. Lakeman had 313 yards passing. 3 touchdowns, but it wasn't enough to overcome the deficit that Houston had in this game.
Back-to-back 100-yard games for Mike St. Green for the first time in the 4K23 era. Kay Marion was quieted after her explosive performance against Sin City in Week 1. As an offensive guy, Mike, I think you've probably got to be pleased with Houston putting up 31, even though it was in a loss, because you're looking around at some of the offenses around the league, and 31 points is not easy.
31 points are not easy. I think the offense is really running efficiently. Lakeman did have a couple of interceptions in this game that were at key times. Like I said, turnovers really hurt us, special teams play and offensively. But what I think the difference in this game was that we had no turnovers ourselves in this game. Defense played, pretty well most of the game. As I mentioned, Albuquerque did not have any huge statistical advantage, but just no turnovers to counter their special teams play, and that turnovers really pretty much was the result of this game.
Yeah, and they took advantage of those giveaways as well and turned them into points, and they're still undefeated all time at home now, 8-0. So that's all for the games in Week 2. So that brings us to your Week 2 spectaculars. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, the first spectacular is going to be who wore it best. We know I'm a uniform honk, and I really like for team to look well and play well. And when you play well, when you look and feel well, you play well, and typically you win. And then this award only goes to the winners. And this is going to go to the Washington Trident. They looked great in this game against Arizona. I really like the look that they had, just a different look from what I think we're accustomed to seeing in this league. So they looked well and they played well, and it showed on the field with the big win over the Arizona Scorpions. Now the spectaculars, let's get to those. Terrell Cooper with those same Washington Trident. He was great with 170 yards on seven catches, but he was not the spectacular of the week. I'm going to give that to Colin Hart. Minnesota, we didn't mention them or talk to them about them much after the highlight, but Minnesota got back to the basics. They got back to the Colin Hart from a couple of seasons ago. They said, we're going to feed the horse and let him go. 171 yards on 31 carries and a touchdown. He was huge for them, and he was a big reason why they were able to beat the Atlanta Swarm the other night. And Colin Hart, he gets my spectacular player of the week.
Yeah, you're right. We didn't talk much about Minnesota's, dominant run game. They really just kind of, lulled Atlanta to sleep. That game didn't have much going for it except for Colin Hart and that rushing attack. And, we talked about Denver's dynamic duo in the run game, but, also got to give a shout out to their defense as well. Their defense has been playing excellent. In the first two games, they haven't given up a touchdown. They won 16-0 over Carolina. They won 23-6 over Chicago. John Martin might be the best defensive player just in the league. He just looks awesome. The secondary's playing well. So, hey, Denver, Chicago, Carolina, we can debate about, where they're going to end up at the top of the standings by the end of it. But Denver's 2-0. They got Washington next week. That's a big game out west.
Definitely a big game out west, and I don't feel like that this is an anomaly that this defense is playing with so far this this season. Chicago, they're struggling offensively, but that's to take nothing away from what the Denver defense has done. Carolina, this is a playoff team from a season ago, so. No, we're not going to call this an anomaly. Denver's getting some things figured out, and they're doing some things right, and that's really going to be an early early season big matchup with Washington and Denver next week. I'll be looking forward to seeing that one.
All right, we got to keep it moving. It's time for Haynes Vision. Let's get to our big matchup tonight. Pittsburgh and Bossier City. Ace Phoenix return to take on Bossier City, and we cannot wait for that one. The Pittsburgh Riverhogs coming into town. 0-1 after 0-1 after a loss to DC last week. There's Ace Phoenix numbers. Didn't play terrible, but they need a little bit more out of them tonight.
Yeah, they're definitely going to need a little bit more out of them than 12 out of 24, I think he was last week, or maybe if I saw that right. But Mike Twinscrew is going to definitely have to step up and fill the shoes left by Connor West.
Ace Phoenix spread the ball around well. He also hit Ziggy Hronik for 6 times, 74 yards in this one. And it was really this passing game that kind of got him back in it. Remember, they were down 14-0 in that one. Came all the way back to take the lead. I think Pittsburgh was probably one of the better 0-1 performances from week one. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get their weapons going. BB Belitz didn't have a brilliant stat line, but he did reach the end zone twice.
Yeah, not a brilliant stat line, but he's a key to what this team likes to do in the running game, and he's going to have to come up big tonight if Pittsburgh want to get a win.
There's a look at his numbers against the Dragons. On the flip side for Pittsburgh, it's up to this defense to try and limit the big plays after DC was able to push the ball down the field. Cain Vasquez was a big part of those limitations. He had 3 pass deflections along with 10 tackles last week.
That Cain Vasquez a big pickup in the offseason for Pittsburgh, and we're going to have to see a lot of this from this Pittsburgh defense. They're hoping to keep Johnny Pickler in check.
Tommy Welbrock Busey returning to Louisiana tonight with the Pittsburgh Riverhogs, the former Louisiana Revolution. They got plenty of former Revolution players on this team. He also had 10 tackles last week and that interception that you just saw. This Pittsburgh team riddled with big free agent pickups from last season. And then another one, Todd Rigsby for Pittsburgh. He stepped up in a big way last week as well.
Yeah, we see him here fighting off of a block and able to pick up that fumble, take it all the way in for the touchdown, and fumble 6 for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's a rarity in this league, and that's a great heads-up play by Mr. Todd Rigsby. All right, let's go to Baltimore, or Bossier City, rather, where the Bossier City Steamers are hot off their win last week in Nashville. And Pickler's numbers don't jump off the page, 10 for 20, but I thought he looked really sharp. It wasn't all on him last week. He had a lot of help in the run game, but when they needed him to play well, he did play well.
Yeah, Johnny Pickler, he's that type of player. When you need him to step up and make a play with his arm, we can see him do it as he did right there, finding Garrison Blue in the corner of the end zone for the touchdown.
Garrison Blue with the touchdown, 4 receptions in that 31-yard heater last week. Another familiar face and a familiar connection for you, Mike, is Johnny Pickler to Vin Callia. Didn't have a bunch of production, but still had 72 yards on just 3 grabs.
Yeah, this is great to see this. It makes puts a smile on my face to see this combination back together once again since their first time since their time in London. Vin Callia has been a great receiver for a long time, and we're going to look to see if he can have a great performance again tonight.
Offensively, it was Rob Noel that stole the show last week. 105 yards on 22 carries. Nobody expected the fullback to running back to be this powerful and this effective. And he was really the difference in putting Nashville away.
Yeah, this is going to be a key for Pittsburgh tonight. Can they slow down Rob Noel and try to put more of this game on Johnny Pickler to see if they can come away with a win? It's going to be huge that they slow down Rob Noel tonight.
Defensively at the safety position, Bob Funk playing cleanup crew, 13 tackles, and that huge pass deflection ended up putting Nashville in a position where they had to kick a field goal. His lone pass deflection worth 4 points for that Bossier City defense. Also on defense, Michaela Forker, you might see her roaming around in the front 7 tonight. Didn't jump off the stat line, but did have an interception.
Yeah, this was a huge read and interception. You can see her reading the quarterback's eyes the whole time, stepping in front, making a huge one-hand grab.
And then finally on this Bossier City defense, we'll take a look at Bogey Barr. Barr with 8 tackles last week, including another big interception on Switch Thumper. This is down the stretch in this game, 1:35 to go. Bossier City's up 8, and Bogey Barr sealed the deal.
Yeah, that was a huge play. You could see Bogey pretty much reading the offense the whole time, stepping in front and sealing the deal for the Steamers.
Ron Haynes, you are brilliant, my friend. Thank you so much for Haynes Vision this week and every week once we have tape on SFL this week. So it's now up to picks. It is an 0-2 start for Mr. Mike St. Green. I'm just waiting for you to bring in the dartboard and just start chucking it, chucking darts at it, because you're off to a bad start. But Bossier City, Pittsburgh tonight. The Steamers are 4.5-point favorites. Who you got in tonight's matchup?
Well, first of all, Cam, I started the season in the hole last season and ended up finishing above 500. So let's start there. But look,
how many games did you finish above 500?
Well, 2. I was 8. Well, if you want to count the championship game, which I was able to predict correctly, that was 8-6. But
right
now, I need for everyone to look square in my eyes. I'm supposed to be a guru, and I need you guys to cooperate. And when I make these picks, I need for you, I needed for it to go the way that I predicted. So anyway, let's get to it. Bossier City, 4.5-point favorites. I think Pittsburgh will cover the 4.5, but lose this game. I'm hoping for a shootout. I'm looking to see both of these quarterbacks, all their glory. That we know they can both sling it around. Hopefully we'll see a slinging around type game, but I'm not sure if it's going to go that way. I definitely think Bossier City is going to want to continue to work their ground game, but I think Ace is going to come down there and try to sling it around a little bit, and over the 51.5 also can, but I think Pittsburgh's going to cover. Bossier City's going to win. Let's go with 34-31.
Whew. And that would be a fun one here on the Monday Night Spectacular. And listen, Ace Fennick got drafted by this team. And this team has been through a lot since he's been there. It was Lone Star. It's been Bossier City. It's been all over the place. And Ace Fennick needed a new start, and he's got one in Pittsburgh. And now he's bringing a lot of Louisiana boys and girls back to Louisiana to take on Bossier City. So it should be a very fun game tonight. Pittsburgh, Bossier City coming up in about 5.5 minutes from now. We'll see you there on the Virtual Football Network. For Mike St. Green, I'm Cameron Irvine. This has been SFL This Week, and we'll see you next week.